I stood in the hallway of that nursing home, staring at the peeling paint on the walls and smelling the mix of disinfectant and something I couldn't quite name. Something that smelled like neglect. My daughter Jennifer had brought me here 3 days ago. She didn't even come inside with me, just pulled up to the entrance, handed my suitcase to a staff member, and told me this was temporary. I watched her drive away in that expensive car her new husband bought her. She didn't look back, not once. This was the same daughter I'd nursed through 18 months of chemotherapy. The same daughter I'd given up my home for, spent my savings on, held while she vomited from the treatments. The same daughter who promised me we'd always be together. How did I end up here? And how did I discover the truth that would change everything? If this story touches your heart, please subscribe and stay with me to hear how this ends. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. You might see your own family in this story. My name is Margaret Sullivan, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 68 years old, and for most of my life, I thought I knew what love meant. I worked as a hospice nurse for 35 years, caring for people in their final days, holding their hands when family couldn't be there, making sure no one died alone. I understood suffering. I understood dignity. I thought I understood sacrifice. My late husband Thomas and I raised Jennifer together in our small 3-bedroom house on Maple Street. Tom was a postal worker, and we didn't have much, but we had enough. We had love. We had Sunday dinners and birthday cakes, and Jennifer's artwork covering our refrigerator. When Tom died of a heart attack 8 years ago, I thought the worst pain of my life had already happened. I was wrong. Jennifer was my whole world after Tom passed. She was 34 then, working as a marketing coordinator, recently divorced, raising my granddaughter Emily on her own. I helped however I could. I babysat Emily every weekend. I paid for Emily's dance classes when Jennifer's budget was tight. I showed up for every recital, every parent-teacher conference Jennifer couldn't make because of work. I thought we were close. I thought we needed each other. Then came the diagnosis. It was October of 2022 when Jennifer called me, her voice shaking. Stage 3 breast cancer. Aggressive. She'd need surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, the works. She was terrified. Emily was only 16 then, still in high school, and Jennifer didn't want her daughter to see her at her worst. I didn't even hesitate. I told Jennifer I was moving in with her. I told her I'd take care of everything. I told her she wasn't going through this alone. I sold my house on Maple Street, the house where Tom and I had spent 40 years together. The house where we'd raised Jennifer, where we'd celebrated every Christmas, where Tom had proposed to me on the front porch swing. I sold it and moved into Jennifer's spare bedroom. I used the money from the sale to help with her medical bills. $47,000 of my retirement savings gone in 18 months, but I didn't care. Money meant nothing compared to my daughter's life. Those 18 months were the hardest of both our lives. I held Jennifer's hair back when the chemo made her sick. I drove her to every appointment, sat through every infusion, slept in a chair next to her hospital bed when she was too weak to go home. I cooked meals she could keep down, cleaned the house, took care of Emily, made sure Jennifer never had to worry about anything except getting better. I watched my strong, beautiful daughter lose her hair, her strength, her confidence. But I also watched her fight, and I was so proud of her. When the doctor told us the cancer was in remission in March of 2024, we cried together. We held each other in that examination room and sobbed with relief. Jennifer looked at me that day and said, "Mom, I couldn't have done this without you. I owe you my life." I told her she didn't owe me anything. I told her that's what mothers do. We take care of our children no matter what. No matter how old they get. I thought we'd grown closer through that nightmare. I thought our bond was unbreakable now. For a few months, things felt normal again. Jennifer's hair grew back. Her energy returned. Emily graduated high school and started community college. We had family dinners again. We laughed again. I started to believe we'd made it through the worst and come out stronger on the other side. I should have known better. I'd been a hospice nurse long enough to know that sometimes The hardest part isn't the illness. It's what comes after. That's when everything changed for me. Jennifer met Marcus Hartley at a work conference in June of 2024. He was a financial consultant, recently divorced, no children. Wealthy, very wealthy. He drove a Mercedes, lived in a gated community, belonged to the country club. Within 2 weeks of meeting him, Jennifer's entire personality seemed to shift. Suddenly she was getting her nails done every week, buying expensive clothes, talking about luxury vacations and wine tastings and things that had never mattered to her before. I was happy for her at first. I truly was. She deserved happiness after everything she'd been through. She deserved to feel beautiful again, to fall in love again, to have a fresh start. Marcus seemed nice enough the first time I met him. Polite, well-dressed, confident. But there was something in the way he looked around Jennifer's modest townhouse that made me uncomfortable. Like he was cataloging everything that didn't meet his standards, including me. Jennifer and Marcus got engaged in September, just 3 months after they met. She showed me the ring, a massive diamond that must have cost more than my car, and I hugged her and told her I was thrilled for her. And I meant it, but something in her eyes had changed. She didn't look at me the same way anymore. There was a distance there that hadn't been before. A coldness. The wedding was planned for December. A small ceremony, Jennifer said. Just close family and Marcus's business associates. I offered to help with planning, but Jennifer kept putting me off. She was busy, she said. The wedding planner was handling everything. She'd let me know when she needed me. I tried not to feel hurt. I told myself she was just overwhelmed with wedding planning and her new relationship. I told myself the closeness we'd built during her cancer treatment was still there, just temporarily buried under the excitement of new love. Then came the night that shattered my world. It was late October, about a month before the wedding. I was in my room, the spare bedroom that had been mine for over 2 years now, reading before bed. I heard Jennifer and Marcus talking in the living room. Their voices were low, but the walls in her townhouse were thin. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I heard my name. I heard Marcus say, "So what are we going to do about your mother?" I froze. My heart started pounding. I set down my book and listened. Jennifer's voice was quieter, harder to hear, but I caught fragments. I know. She can't come with us. New house. Fresh start. Doesn't fit. Marcus's voice came clearer. She's your mother, Jen. You can't just... I took care of her obligation, Jennifer said, and her voice was cold in a way I'd never heard before. She lived here while I needed her. Now I'm better. Now I'm moving on. She has to understand that. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I sat there on the edge of my bed, my hands shaking, trying to process what I'd just heard. She lived here while I needed her, as if I'd been the one receiving care instead of giving it, as if I'd been some kind of burden she'd had to tolerate during her illness. I wanted to march out there and confront her. I wanted to ask her how she could possibly say those things after everything we'd been through together. But I didn't. I just sat there in the dark, crying as quietly as I could, feeling more alone than I'd felt since Tom died. The next morning, I waited for Jennifer to say something, to tell me about her conversation with Marcus, to explain what their plans were, to at least acknowledge that my living situation was about to change. But she acted like nothing had happened. She made her protein smoothie, checked her phone, and left for her hot yoga class without even looking at me. I spent the whole day in a fog of anxiety and hurt, wondering what was coming, wondering if I'd misunderstood what I'd heard. I didn't misunderstand. 2 days later, Jennifer sat me down at the kitchen table. Emily was at school. Marcus was at work. It was just the two of us, and I thought maybe we were finally going to talk honestly. Maybe she was going to tell me about the house she and Marcus were buying, and we'd figure out a plan together. Maybe she'd ask me what I wanted to do, where I wanted to live. I still had some savings left, not much after helping with her medical bills, but enough for a small apartment maybe. "Mom," Jennifer said, not quite meeting my eyes. Marcus and I have been talking, and we think it would be best if you moved into a care facility. I stared at her. A care facility? You mean like a nursing home? It's an assisted living community, she said quickly, like the words made it better. You're getting older, and we just think you'd be safer somewhere with staff who can keep an eye on you. You know, in case something happens. Jennifer, I'm 68 years old. I'm healthy. I don't need assisted living. My voice was shaking. I thought we'd talk about me finding my own place. An apartment, maybe. You can't afford an apartment on your fixed income, Mom. Not in this area. This way, everything's taken care of for you. Meals, activities, medical care if you need it. It's really the best option. The best option for whom? I wanted to ask. But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling like the floor was dropping out from under me. When? I finally managed to say. We close on our new house next week. We'd like to have you settled before the wedding. She still wasn't looking at me. She was scrolling through her phone, like this was just another item on her to-do list. Book caterer, order flowers, dump mother in nursing home. Does it have to be right away? I asked. My voice sounded small. Could I stay until after the wedding? I'd like to be there, to see you get married. Mom, the wedding is going to be stressful enough without worrying about where you're sleeping. This way, you'll be all settled in, and you can come to the wedding from there. Marcus's driver can pick you up. That's when I understood. She didn't want me at the wedding. Or rather, she wanted me there just long enough for appearances, and then gone. I was an embarrassment to her now, a reminder of a life she was desperate to leave behind. I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd given up everything for, this woman whose life I'd saved, and I didn't recognize her anymore. What about my things? I asked. My furniture from the house on Maple Street, all the boxes in your garage. We'll need the garage space, she said. You'll have to go through it and take what you need. The facility has furnished rooms, so you won't need much. Maybe some clothes and personal items? Jennifer. I reached across the table to take her hand, but she pulled away. Please, can we talk about this? Really talk about it? I don't understand what's happening. I thought we were close. I thought after everything we went through together, Mom, stop being dramatic. Her voice was sharp now, irritated. This is what's best for everyone. You'll make friends there. You'll have activities. It's better than you being alone here all day while Marcus and I are at work. But I wouldn't be alone here, I wanted to say. I'd have you. I'd have Emily. I'd have a home. Instead, I just nodded. I felt my throat closing up with tears, but I refused to cry in front of her. I'd learned in hospice work that sometimes people make decisions out of fear or pain, and you can't argue them out of it. You just have to let them make their choices and deal with the consequences later. I just never thought my own daughter would be the one making a choice that would destroy me. The next week moved in a blur of heartbreak and disbelief. Jennifer took me to tour the facility she'd chosen. Shady Pines Assisted Living was not what she'd described. It wasn't a cheerful community center with activities and socialization. It was a run-down building on the edge of town that smelled like old cafeteria food and industrial cleaner. The carpet was stained. The common room had a television that 3 elderly residents stared at blankly, and that was the only activity I could see. The staff member who showed us around seemed overworked and rushed. When I saw the room that would be mine, a tiny space with a single bed, a dresser, and a small window that looked out on the parking lot, I felt something break inside me. Jennifer, this place, I started to say, but she cut me off. It's clean and safe, Mom. That's what matters. And it's what we can afford. What we can afford. She'd just gotten engaged to a millionaire, and she was putting me in the cheapest facility she could find. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her how she could do this to me. But I just nodded and signed the papers she put in front of me. What choice did I have? I had nowhere else to go. Moving day was 3 days before Jennifer's wedding. I'd spent the previous days going through my belongings in her garage, trying to decide what to keep when I could only take 2 suitcases. I held Tom's flannel shirt and cried. I looked at Jennifer's baby pictures and wondered where that sweet little girl had gone. I packed my photo albums, my nursing school diploma, my wedding ring, the cross necklace Tom had given me on our 20th anniversary. Everything else, 40 years of marriage, 68 years of life, I had to leave behind. Jennifer didn't even help me pack. She was too busy with last-minute wedding details, she said. On the morning I was supposed to leave, she didn't drive me herself. She called a car service. A stranger loaded my 2 suitcases into the trunk while Jennifer stood in her doorway in her yoga pants, her arms crossed, looking impatient for me to leave. Emily wasn't there. Jennifer had made sure she was at class. No one was there to say goodbye. No one was there to hug me or tell me everything would be okay or promise to visit soon. "Call me when you're settled," Jennifer said as I got into the car. That was it. No hug. No "I love you." No acknowledgement that she was abandoning her mother in a place I didn't want to be, after everything I'd sacrificed for her. I looked back at the townhouse as we drove away, the place I'd called home for over 2 years, the place where I'd saved my daughter's life, and I knew I'd never be welcome there again. The nursing home was worse when I arrived alone. The staff member who checked me in barely looked at me. She handed me a key, pointed me toward my room, and went back to her paperwork. No orientation, no introduction to other residents, no explanation of meals or activities or anything. I dragged my suitcases down the hallway myself, my arthritic hands aching, and let myself into room 14. I sat on the edge of that narrow bed and looked around at the bare walls, the cheap furniture, the window with its view of cracked asphalt. This was my home now. This was what my life had come to. I thought about all those patients I'd cared for in hospice, all the times I'd promised them dignity in their final days. I'd never imagined I'd end my own days in a place like this, forgotten by the person I loved most in the world. I lay down on that bed, still fully clothed, and cried until I didn't have any tears left. If this story breaks your heart like it does mine, please hit that like button and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt betrayed by family. The first weeks at Shady Pines were a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept thinking Jennifer would visit, that she'd see what this place was really like and feel guilty and take me somewhere better. But she didn't come, not once. The wedding happened without me. She'd forgotten to have Marcus's driver pick me up like she'd promised. I found out later through Emily, who called me crying, that Jennifer had told everyone I was too ill to attend. Too ill. I wasn't ill at all. I just wasn't wanted. The facility itself was exactly what I'd feared. The staff was overworked and underpaid, stretched too thin to give proper care to the 40 residents who lived there. Meals were served at strict times, breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 5, and if you missed them, too bad. The food was barely edible. Rubbery eggs, mystery meat, vegetables boiled until they were gray. I'd been a good cook my whole life, had made healthy meals for my family, and now I was eating food I wouldn't have served to my cat if I'd had one. My room was freezing at night. I asked maintenance about the heating vent that rattled but never seemed to produce warmth, but they never came to fix it. I asked for an extra blanket and was told to wait until the next supply order. I started sleeping in my clothes and my cardigan, curled up under the thin bedspread, shivering. This was November. Winter hadn't even really started yet. The other residents weren't much help. Most of them had dementia or were so physically frail they couldn't leave their rooms. The woman next door to me, Mrs. Patterson, screamed at night sometimes. I learned from an aide that she had Alzheimer's and thought she was back in her childhood home. No one comforted her. They just closed her door and turned up the TV in the nurses' station. The man across the hall, Mr. Chen, never had visitors. He just sat in his wheelchair by his window all day, staring out at nothing. I tried talking to him once, but he didn't respond. Later I learned he'd had a stroke and couldn't speak. I'd never felt so alone in my life. At least in hospice I'd had purpose. I'd had patients who needed me, colleagues who respected me, work that mattered. Here I had nothing, no purpose, no identity except Margaret in room 14. The days blurred together in a haze of bad food, uncomfortable sleep, and crushing loneliness. I called Emily a few times, but I could tell Jennifer was monitoring her. Our conversations were brief and stilted. Emily kept saying she wanted to visit, but she was so busy with school. I told her I understood. I didn't want her to see me like this anyway. I tried calling Jennifer directly 3 times in those first 2 weeks. The first time, she didn't answer. The second time, she texted back, "Busy with honeymoon planning. Talk later." The third time she answered, but her voice was cold. "What do you need, Mom?" Like I was an obligation, a chore to check off her list. I told her the heating in my room didn't work, that the food was terrible, that I was lonely. She said she'd look into it and hung up. She never looked into anything. That's when I started to understand the truth. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't just about Jennifer needing space for her new marriage. She had gotten rid of me. Permanently. I was an inconvenience, a reminder of her old life, an embarrassment she wanted to erase. I'd given up my home for her, spent my savings on her, held her hand through the darkest time of her life. And this was my reward, a 10 by 12 room in a facility that smelled like decay and broken dreams. The worst part was the neglect I saw around me. I'd been a nurse for 35 years. I knew what proper care looked like. And this wasn't it. I watched aides skip residents' baths because they didn't have time. I saw medication errors, pills given to the wrong people, doses skipped entirely. I noticed residents sitting in soiled clothes for hours because there weren't enough staff to change them. One woman, Mrs. Rodriguez in room 9, developed a bed sore that got infected because no one was turning her regularly. I reported it to the charge nurse, but nothing changed. I tried to help where I could. I was still a nurse, even if I was living here now. I checked on Mrs. Patterson during her nighttime episodes, sitting with her and holding her hand until she calmed down. I read to Mr. Chen sometimes, even though he couldn't respond. I helped Mrs. Rodriguez with her meals when the aides were too busy. But I felt helpless. I couldn't change the systemic problems. I couldn't fix the broken heating or improve the terrible food or hire more staff. I could only bear witness to suffering I couldn't stop. Then in my 3rd week there, I met Rosa Mendez. She was a CNA who worked the day shift, and from the first moment I saw her, I could tell she was different from the other staff. She actually looked at residents when she talked to them. She smiled. She touched people gently with respect. When she came to check on me one morning, she noticed I was wearing my cardigan over my clothes in bed. "Mrs. Sullivan, are you cold?" she asked, real concern in her voice. "The heating doesn't work well in here," I said. I tried to smile. "I'm managing." Rosa frowned and checked the vent. She put her hand up to it and shook her head. "This is broken." "How long has it been like this?" "Since I got here. 3 weeks ago. I reported it, but this isn't right," Rosa said firmly. She pulled out her phone and took a photo of the vent. "I'm going to talk to my supervisor. You shouldn't be freezing. And Mrs. Sullivan, can I ask, do you have family? Someone who comes to visit?" Something in her tone made me honest. "I have a daughter. She's the one who brought me here." "She doesn't visit." Rosa's face changed. I saw anger flash in her eyes, but her voice stayed gentle. "I'm sorry. That must be very hard. I didn't trust myself to speak. If I started talking about Jennifer, I'd cry, and I'd cried enough already." I just nodded. Rosa patted my hand. "I'll check on you regularly, okay? If you need anything, you ask for me. Rosa Mendez. I'll make sure you're taken care of." That small act of kindness broke something loose in me. After Rosa left, I sat on my bed and cried again, but these tears were different. Someone had seen me. Someone had cared. It was a tiny crack of light in the darkness I'd been living in, and I held on to it desperately. Rosa kept her word. She started checking on me every shift. She brought me an extra blanket from her own home when maintenance still didn't fix the heating. She made sure I got the better portions at meals. She sat with me sometimes during her breaks and talked to me like I was a real person, not just a room number. She told me about her own family, her husband who worked construction, her 2 little boys, her grandmother who died in a nursing home when Rosa was a teenager. I couldn't help my abuela, she told me. But I can help people now. That's why I do this work. As we talked more, I found myself telling her about Jennifer, about the cancer, about moving into care for her, about spending my savings and selling my house, about the wedding I wasn't invited to and the daughter who never called. Rosa listened to all of it, her eyes getting wider and angrier with every detail. "Mrs. Sullivan," she finally said, "your daughter put you in this facility and never visits? After you saved her life?" "She's busy," I said automatically, defending Jennifer like I'd done my whole life. "She just got married. She's starting a new life." "No," Rosa's voice was sharp. "That's not an excuse. You don't abandon your mother in a place like this after she gave up everything for you. That's elder abandonment. That's abuse. Abuse." The word hung in the air between us. I'd never thought of it that way. I'd been so focused on being hurt, on feeling rejected, that I hadn't considered what Jennifer had done might actually be illegal. Or immoral, or both. "You said you were a nurse, right?" Rosa asked. "So you can see what I see? This facility isn't properly staffed. Residents aren't getting the care they need, and your daughter knowingly put you here and pays the absolute minimum to keep you housed. She's neglecting you financially and emotionally, and she's doing it after you spent your own savings caring for her." I felt something shift inside me. Anger, maybe, or just the beginning of clarity. "What can I do about it?" I asked. "I signed papers. I agreed to come here. I don't have money to move anywhere else. I don't even have my own house anymore." Rosa was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she said, "Let me ask you something. When you signed those papers, did you want to come here? Did you agree because you thought it was best for you, or because you felt like you had no choice?" I thought about that day in Jennifer's kitchen. The way she'd avoided my eyes, the way she'd made it clear this wasn't a discussion, it was a decision she'd already made. I had no choice, I admitted. "Then maybe those papers aren't as binding as you think," Rosa said. "Mrs. Sullivan, I have a friend who's an elder law attorney. She does some pro bono work for cases like this. Would you be willing to talk to her?" Hope fluttered in my chest, fragile and terrifying. "I don't know. Jennifer is still my daughter. I don't want to—" "Mrs. Sullivan." Rosa took my hand and looked directly into my eyes. "I watched my grandmother die in a place like this. She was lonely and neglected, and none of us knew how bad it was until it was too late. I will not watch that happen to you. You deserve better. You deserve dignity. Please, let me help you." I looked at this young woman who barely knew me, who had no obligation to care about what happened to me, who was offering to be the advocate I desperately needed. And I thought about all the patients I'd cared for in hospice, all the times I'd fought for their dignity and comfort in their final days. Why couldn't I fight for myself? Why was I accepting this treatment from my own daughter when I'd never have tolerated it for a patient? "Okay," I whispered. "I'll talk to your friend." Rosa smiled, fierce and protective. "Good. Her name is Sarah Chen. I'll call her tonight." That conversation changed everything. For the first time since Jennifer had told me I had to leave, I felt something besides despair. I felt the tiniest spark of hope, and I felt angry, really, truly angry at what my daughter had done to me, at what she was continuing to do by leaving me in this place and never looking back. 3 days later, Rosa brought attorney Sarah Chen to visit me during her lunch hour. Sarah was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a kind smile. She sat down in my tiny room and asked me to tell her everything. So I did. I told her about Jennifer's cancer, about moving in with her, about the $47,000 I'd spent on medical bills. I told her about selling my house and having nowhere else to go. I told her about overhearing Jennifer and Marcus discussing what to do about me, like I was a problem to solve. I told her about the papers Jennifer had me sign, about the wedding I was excluded from, about the 3 weeks I'd been here without a single visit from my daughter. Sarah took notes on everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Margaret, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Did your daughter have power of attorney over you when she placed you here?" "No, I signed my own papers. Did you sign anything giving her control over your finances?" "No, I still have my own bank account, my Social Security, my small pension from the hospital where I worked." "Good, that's good." Sarah flipped through her notes. "Did Jennifer promise you anything in exchange for your financial help during her cancer treatment? Any agreement that she'd care for you in return?" I thought back. "She said I could live with her as long as I needed to. She said after everything I'd done for her, she'd make sure I was taken care of. But that was just talking. We didn't have anything in writing. Verbal agreements can still matter," Sarah said, "especially in elder law cases. Margaret, I believe you have a case for financial elder abuse and caregiver neglect. Your daughter accepted substantial financial support from you under the pretense of a caregiving relationship, then abandoned that relationship when it was no longer convenient for her. She placed you in a substandard facility and has failed to maintain contact or ensure your welfare. In California, adult children have a legal responsibility to their elderly parents in certain circumstances, especially when there's been a pattern of dependency and care." My heart was pounding. "What does that mean? What can we do?" "We can file a petition to have Jennifer legally responsible for ensuring your proper care. We can potentially seek repayment of the funds you spent on her medical care, since she's now in a better financial position and you're in a worse one. We can also report this facility for violations if Rosa is willing to document what she's witnessed." "But Margaret, I need to be honest with you. This will be difficult. Jennifer will likely fight it. Family court cases are emotionally brutal. And even if we win, we can't force her to love you or want a relationship with you." "I don't want her money," I said, and I meant it. I want to be treated like a human being. I want to live somewhere safe and clean. I want my daughter to acknowledge what she's done to me. I want her to understand that what she did was wrong." Sarah nodded. "Then we'll fight for that. I'll take your case pro bono. Rosa, are you willing to testify about conditions here and document the facility violations?" "Absolutely," Rosa said immediately. "I've been keeping notes for weeks. I can get other aides to testify too. We all see what's going on here." "Good. Then here's what we're going to do." Sarah pulled out some papers. "First, Margaret, I need you to sign a retainer agreement so I can officially represent you. Then I'm going to file a complaint with the California Department of Social Services about this facility. Rosa will provide documentation. While that investigation is ongoing, I'll file a petition in family court regarding Jennifer's treatment of you and her financial obligations. We'll request a hearing where Jennifer will have to explain her actions to a judge. And Margaret, I'm also going to help you apply for better housing. There are programs for seniors in your situation. Transitional housing, subsidized apartments. We'll get you out of here." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. Rosa put her arm around my shoulders. "You're not alone anymore, Mrs. Sullivan. We've got you." Over the next month, everything started moving quickly. Sarah filed all the paperwork. Rosa and 3 other aides gave sworn statements about conditions at Shady Pines. The Department of Social Services sent an inspector who found dozens of violations, inadequate staffing, medication errors, facility maintenance issues, lack of proper medical care. They put the facility on probation and mandated immediate corrections. Meanwhile, Jennifer was served with court papers. She called me for the first time in 5 weeks, and her voice was furious. "Mom, what the hell are you doing?" "You're suing me? Your own daughter?" I took a deep breath. Rosa had coached me on this. "I'm not suing you, Jennifer. I'm asking the court to ensure I'm properly cared for, which is something you should have been doing all along. I put you in a perfectly good facility. I'm paying for it every month. You put me in the cheapest place you could find and never visited me once. You abandoned me after I gave up everything to save your life. Oh my God, are you seriously going to play that card? You chose to help me during my cancer. I didn't force you to do anything. Her words were like a slap. You're right, I said quietly. You didn't force me. I helped you because I love you, because you're my daughter, because that's what family does. I guess I was wrong about what family means. You're being manipulated by that nurse, Jennifer said. She's probably trying to get money out of this somehow. You're embarrassing yourself, Mom. Marcus's family is going to find out about this. Our friends are going to know my mother is suing me. How do you think that makes me look? How you look? I felt my anger rising. Jennifer, I'm freezing in a room with broken heating. I'm eating food that's barely edible. I'm watching elderly people suffer from neglect. And you're worried about how you look? I'm done with this conversation. I'll see you in court, I guess. But don't expect me to forgive you for this. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, shaking. Part of me wanted to call her back, to apologize, to tell her to forget the whole thing. That was the old Margaret, the mother who always put her daughter first, no matter what. But I thought about Rosa risking her job to help me. I thought about Sarah Chen taking my case for free because she believed in justice. I thought about all the other residents at Shady Pines who didn't have anyone to fight for them. And I knew I couldn't back down now. The court hearing was scheduled for January 15th, 2 months after I'd moved into Shady Pines. In those 2 months, my life changed in small but significant ways. Sarah helped me apply for subsidized senior housing, and I got approved for a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent complex across town. I could move in February 1st. Rosa continued checking on me every day, and she introduced me to other residents who were more cognitively aware. I started having lunch with a woman named Dorothy, who'd been a teacher, and a man named Frank, who'd been a carpenter. We formed our own little family, 3 forgotten people finding companionship in a forgotten place. Emily finally came to visit me in December. She showed up one Saturday morning, and when I saw her standing in my doorway, I started crying. She ran to me and hugged me tight, crying too. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mom told me you wanted space, that you were happy here, that you'd asked not to be disturbed while you adjusted. I didn't know she was lying. We talked for hours. I told her everything. About overhearing the conversation between Jennifer and Marcus, about the wedding I wasn't invited to, about the weeks of abandonment. Emily was horrified and furious at her mother. I'm testifying in court, she told me. I'm telling the judge what Mom did to you. And Grandma, after you move into your new apartment, I'm coming to visit you every week. I promise. What about your mother? I asked. This will hurt your relationship with her. Mom hurt our relationship when she did this to you, Emily said firmly. You saved her life, Grandma. You gave up everything for her, and she threw you away like garbage. That's not okay. That's not the kind of person I want to be. Having Emily back in my life gave me strength I didn't know I had left. When January 15th came and I walked into that courtroom with Sarah Chen by my side, I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting to show Emily what standing up for yourself looks like. I was fighting for all the elderly people who get abandoned and forgotten. I was fighting for the Margaret I used to be, the hospice nurse who believed in dignity for everyone. Jennifer arrived with Marcus and an expensive attorney. She was dressed impeccably in a designer suit, her hair and makeup perfect. She looked like she belonged in a magazine spread. I was wearing my best dress, the navy blue one with the white collar, and my beige cardigan, and I knew I looked exactly like what I was, a 68-year-old woman who'd been living in a nursing home for 2 months. But I held my head high. I had truth on my side. I had witnesses who cared about me. I had nothing to be ashamed of. The hearing took 3 hours. Sarah Chen presented all the evidence, the financial records showing my $47,000 in payments for Jennifer's medical care, the facility inspection reports showing violations at Shady Pines, testimony from Rosa and other aides about my abandonment, testimony from Emily about Jennifer's lies. Sarah showed the judge photos Rosa had taken of my room, The broken heating vent, the stained carpet, the view of the parking lot. She showed phone records proving Jennifer had only called me twice in 2 months, both times after being served with court papers. Jennifer's attorney tried to argue that I had voluntarily entered Shady Pines, that Jennifer was paying my fees regularly, that adult children have no legal obligation to house their parents. But Sarah countered every point. She argued that I'd been coerced into signing papers when I had nowhere else to go, that paying minimum fees for substandard care wasn't the same as ensuring proper welfare, that California law does create obligations when there's been a pattern of financial exploitation and when an elderly parent has nowhere else to go. Then came the most powerful moment of the hearing. The judge asked Jennifer directly, "Ms. Hartley, your mother spent $47,000 of her retirement savings on your medical care and sold her home to move in with you during your cancer treatment. Is this accurate?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jennifer said stiffly. "But I didn't ask her to do that. She made those choices on her own. And after you recovered, did you offer to help her find suitable housing? Did you discuss her living situation with her before placing her in Shady Pines?" Jennifer hesitated. We talked about what was best for her safety. Did you visit her after placement?" Silence. Jennifer's attorney whispered something to her. Finally, she said, "I was on my honeymoon. I've been very busy. The placement was November 1st. Your honeymoon was December 10th through 24th, according to your submitted calendar. That leaves several weeks unaccounted for. How many times did you visit your mother between November 1st and today, January 15th? Jennifer looked at the floor. "I didn't visit. But I called. Phone records show 2 calls, both after you were served with these papers. Miss Hartley, did you attend your wedding while your mother was in the facility?" "Yes." "Was your mother invited to your wedding?" Another long pause. "The venue was small. We had limited space. That's not what I asked." "Was your mother invited?" "No, Your Honor." Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. The judge looked at her for a long moment, and I saw something in his expression that made my heart soar. Disgust. He was disgusted with my daughter. "Miss Hartley, I've been on the bench for 22 years. I've seen a lot of elder abuse cases. Financial exploitation, neglect, abandonment. What strikes me about this case is the profound ingratitude displayed here. Your mother didn't just help you financially. She sacrificed her home, her savings, and her future security to save your life. And you repaid that sacrifice by warehousing her in a substandard facility and cutting off contact. That's not just legal neglect. That's moral bankruptcy." Jennifer's face went red. Marcus shifted uncomfortably beside her. I sat very still, afraid to breathe, afraid to hope. The judge continued, "I'm ruling in favor of the petitioner. Ms. Hartley, you are hereby ordered to reimburse your mother $47,000 for the medical expenses she paid on your behalf. You will make monthly payments of $1,000 until the debt is satisfied. Additionally, you are required to contribute $800 per month toward your mother's housing costs going forward, not for the substandard facility she's currently in, but for appropriate senior housing of her choosing. Finally, I'm ordering family counseling. You and your mother will attend 6 sessions with a court-appointed therapist to address this breakdown in your relationship." Jennifer's attorney stood up. "Your Honor, my client just got married. These financial obligations will create hardship." "Hardship?" The judge's voice was sharp. "Your client drives a Mercedes and lives in a house in Harborview Estates. Her new husband is a financial consultant with significant assets. Meanwhile, her mother was freezing in a room with broken heating and eating substandard food. I don't want to hear about hardship. This court is adjourned." I sat there in shock as the judge stood and left the courtroom. Sarah Chen squeezed my hand. "We won," she said, smiling. "Margaret, we won." I looked across the courtroom at Jennifer. She was crying, her perfect makeup running down her face. Marcus had his arm around her, but he was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Maybe shame, maybe just discomfort at being involved in something so publicly ugly. Jennifer's eyes met mine for just a moment, and I saw something there I'd never seen before. Not love, not even anger, just emptiness, like she was looking at a stranger. That's when I finally understood. I'd lost my daughter, not today in this courtroom, but months ago when she decided I didn't fit her new life. The woman sitting across from me wasn't my little girl anymore. She wasn't the daughter I'd raised, the woman I'd saved. She was someone I didn't know, someone I didn't want to know, and that hurt worse than anything else that had happened. But I'd won. I'd stood up for myself. I'd proven that what she did was wrong, and I'd gotten the resources I needed to live with dignity. That had to be enough. The aftermath of the court ruling was swift and satisfying in ways I hadn't expected. The story of the case leaked to local media. Sarah suspected Jennifer's attorney tried to use press to gain sympathy, but it backfired spectacularly. The headline in the San Diego Tribune read, "Wealthy newlywed ordered to repay mother who saved her life." The article detailed Jennifer's cancer, my financial sacrifice, and my abandonment in Shady Pines. The community response was overwhelming. Jennifer's social media was flooded with angry comments. People she'd been trying to impress, Marcus's country club friends, her professional network, even some of her own friends, were horrified by what she'd done. Several of Marcus's business associates reportedly pulled back from working with him because they didn't want to be associated with someone who'd treat his wife's mother that way. Jennifer had been so worried about how my lawsuit would make her look. Turned out, the truth made her look far worse than any legal action could have. The court-ordered counseling sessions were painful and ultimately futile. Jennifer showed up to all 6 sessions because she had to, but she never really engaged. She sat with her arms crossed, giving one-word answers, making it clear she was only there because the judge forced her. The therapist tried to get her to discuss why she'd abandoned me, to show some empathy or understanding. But Jennifer just kept saying she'd done what she thought was best at the time. In our final session, the therapist asked Jennifer directly, "Do you feel any remorse for how you treated your mother?" Jennifer was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "I feel bad that things turned out this way. But I don't think I did anything wrong. I made the best decisions I could for my family." "Your mother is your family," the therapist said gently. "My family is Marcus and Emily. Mom is, she's from my old life. I needed to move forward." I sat there listening to her talk about me like I was an old piece of furniture she'd donated to Goodwill, and I felt something inside me finally let go. I'd been holding on to hope that somehow through all this I'd get my daughter back, that she'd have some kind of revelation and apologize and we'd rebuild our relationship. But that wasn't going to happen. Jennifer truly believed she'd done nothing wrong. She'd rewritten history in her mind until she was the victim and I was the burden she'd nobly tried to manage. After that final session, I told the therapist I didn't want to pursue any more counseling. "I can't make her love me," I said. "I can't make her see what she did. I just need to accept that and move on with my life." The therapist nodded sadly. "That's probably wise, Margaret. Some relationships can't be repaired. It's not your fault. You did everything a mother should do. Sometimes people are just broken in ways we can't fix." I moved into my new apartment on February 1st, exactly 3 months after Jennifer had dropped me off at Shady Pines. The apartment was small but bright, with a real kitchen and a bedroom with a window that looked out on a community garden. It had reliable heating. It had clean carpet. It had neighbors who smiled and said hello. It felt like heaven after Shady Pines. Rosa helped me move, along with Emily and 2 of Rosa's friends from the nursing home. We made a party out of it, brought pizza and sodas, hung curtains, arranged my few pieces of furniture. Rosa had even saved some of my belongings from Jennifer's garage before Jennifer could throw them away, my photo albums, Tom's flannel shirt, some of my nursing textbooks. Having those pieces of my history back made the apartment feel like home. Emily was true to her word. She visited every Sunday, and we rebuilt our relationship slowly. We cooked together. We watched movies. We talked about her classes and her dreams and her struggles with her mother. Jennifer had tried to turn Emily against me, telling her I was being vindictive and trying to ruin her marriage. But Emily was smart enough to see through that. She'd lived with me during Jennifer's cancer treatment. She'd seen firsthand how much I'd sacrificed. She knew the truth. "Grandma, I'm so sorry I didn't visit you sooner at that place," Emily told me one Sunday afternoon. We were making Tom's famous chili recipe together in my tiny kitchen. "If I'd known what it was really like, what Mom had done, you were lied to," I said gently. "That's not your fault. You're here now. That's what matters." "Are you angry at her? At Mom?" I thought about that question carefully. "I'm angry at what she did," I finally said. "But I'm not consumed by it anymore. I spent too many years putting her needs before my own. I can't spend what's left of my life being angry about it. I'd rather spend it being happy with the people who actually care about me." "Like me," Emily said, smiling through tears. "Like you," I agreed, hugging my granddaughter close. "You're the best part of that whole relationship. You were worth everything." The $1,000 monthly payments from Jennifer arrived like clockwork, deposited automatically into my account. She never included a note or a call, just the money the court ordered her to pay. Combined with my Social Security, my pension, and the subsidized rent at my new apartment, I was financially stable for the first time since I'd sold my house. I even started saving a little bit each month. Not much, but enough to feel secure. Enough to know I'd never be at anyone's mercy again. I reconnected with some old friends from my nursing days, women I'd lost touch with during Jennifer's illness and aftermath. We started having lunch once a month, and they welcomed me back into their circle without judgment. I told them everything that had happened, and they were universally horrified and supportive. One of them, Linda, had gone through something similar with her own son. He'd borrowed $30,000 and then cut off contact when she asked for repayment. "Some kids just don't understand gratitude," Linda said sadly. "We raised them to be independent, and they took that to mean they don't owe us anything." I also stayed in touch with Rosa. She'd become more than just the aide who'd helped me. She'd become a true friend. We met for coffee every few weeks, and I got to know her sons. I became like an adopted grandmother to them, attending their school events and birthday parties. Rosa's family welcomed me with open arms, treating me with the love and respect my own daughter couldn't manage. It was bittersweet, but also healing. I learned that family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about who shows up for you when you need them most. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more stories of strength and redemption. Have you ever experienced family betrayal or seen an elder mistreated? Share your thoughts in the comments. Looking back now, 6 months after that terrible day when Jennifer dropped me off at Shady Pines, I can see things I couldn't see then. I can see that I'd spent my whole life defining myself through my daughter. I was Jennifer's mother first, Margaret second. I'd given up pieces of myself over the years without even realizing it. My own dreams, my own needs, my own identity, all sacrificed at the altar of being a good mother. When Jennifer rejected me, it felt like dying because I didn't know who I was without her. But I'm learning. I'm 68 years old, and I'm learning who Margaret Sullivan is when she's not taking care of everyone else. I'm learning that I like quiet mornings with coffee and a book. I like gardening. I've started growing tomatoes and herbs on my apartment balcony. I like volunteering at the community center, helping other seniors navigate resources and support systems. I like having friends who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I'm also learning about boundaries. For years, I thought being a good mother meant sacrificing everything, giving endlessly, loving without conditions or limits. But that's not love, that's martyrdom. And it doesn't help anyone. It didn't help Jennifer. She learned that she could take and take and take without consequences, without reciprocity, without basic human decency. I enabled that by never standing up for myself, never saying no, never expecting anything in return. If I'd set better boundaries years ago, maybe she would have grown into a better person. Or maybe not. But at least I wouldn't have ended up frozen and alone in a room that smelled like institutional decay. The hardest truth I've had to accept is that I can't make Jennifer love me. I can't make her feel guilty. I can't make her become the daughter I wish she was. She made her choices, and I have to live with the consequences of those choices, just as she'll have to live with them too. Someday she might realize what she lost. Someday she might regret how she treated the mother who saved her life. But that's not my problem anymore. I'm not waiting for her to have an epiphany. I'm not holding my breath for an apology that will probably never come. I'm just living my life, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me, and that's enough. Emily asked me recently if I'd ever forgive Jennifer. I don't know, I told her honestly. Forgiveness is complicated. I don't hate her. I don't wish bad things for her. But I also can't forget what she did or trust her again. Maybe that's a kind of forgiveness, letting go of the anger and just accepting that this is who she is. Maybe forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen or welcoming her back with open arms. Maybe it just means releasing the hold she has on my heart and moving forward. I think about the patients I cared for in hospice, all those years of watching people face their final days. The ones who died peacefully were always the ones who'd made peace with their relationships, either by reconciling or by accepting that reconciliation wasn't possible. The ones who suffered most were the ones who kept waiting, kept hoping, kept holding on to relationships that were already dead. I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to spend my remaining years waiting for a daughter who isn't coming back. So I'm choosing peace instead. I'm choosing the garden on my balcony, and Sunday dinners with Emily, and coffee dates with Rosa, and lunch with my old nursing friends. I'm choosing to volunteer my time helping other seniors who are lost in the system like I was. I'm choosing to wake up grateful for reliable heating and decent food, and a bed that's my own. I'm choosing to measure my worth by how I treat people, not by how people treat me. There's a saying I heard once, living well is the best revenge. I don't think I'm living well to get revenge on Jennifer. I'm living well because I deserve to live well. Because I spent 68 years taking care of others, and now it's time to take care of myself. Because I survived something that could have broken me, and instead it showed me how strong I really am. I'm also learning to accept help, which is harder than it sounds for someone who spent her whole life being the helper. When Rosa brings me soup when I have a cold, I say thank you instead of insisting I'm fine. When Emily wants to take me to the doctor, I let her instead of taking the bus alone. When my friend Linda offers to pick me up for our lunch dates, I accept instead of meeting her there. I'm learning that accepting help isn't weakness. It's connection. It's allowing other people to show love in the same way I showed love for so many years. The counselor I see now, not the court-ordered one, but a therapist I chose for myself, says I'm grieving. Not just the loss of my relationship with Jennifer, but the loss of the fantasy I'd been holding on to. The fantasy that my sacrifices would be honored, that my love would be returned, that being a good mother guaranteed having a loving daughter. That fantasy died in that nursing home room, and I'm learning to grieve it and let it go. But here's what I've gained in exchange for that loss: myself. My dignity, my autonomy, my understanding that I matter, not because of what I can do for others, but simply because I'm a human being who deserves respect and kindness. That's not a bad trade, even though it cost me everything to learn it. I ran into Marcus recently at the grocery store. He was alone, looking tired and older than his 48 years. He saw me and froze, clearly uncomfortable. I could have walked away. Part of me wanted to. But I'd spent too long avoiding confrontation, avoiding difficult truths. So I walked up to him and said hello. "Margaret," he said, shifting his shopping basket awkwardly. "How are you?" "I'm well, thank you." "How's Jennifer?" He looked at the floor. "She's fine, busy with work." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. Then Marcus said quietly, "I didn't know about what she did to you. Not the full story. She told me you'd agreed to go into assisted living, that it was your choice. I didn't know about the wedding, about not visiting, about—" He trailed off. "About abandoning me in a facility with broken heating while she went on her honeymoon?" I said it without anger, just stating facts. Marcus winced. "Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have paid more attention. I should have insisted we visit you. I trusted Jennifer's version of things." "That's not your fault," I said, and I meant it. "Jennifer is very good at making herself the victim in every story." "But Marcus, you're married to her now. You need to understand who you married. She's capable of throwing away someone who saved her life when they become inconvenient. Remember that." I left him standing there in the produce section, looking shaken. I don't know if my words made any impact. I don't know if he'll ever stand up to Jennifer, or if he'll just continue enabling her self-centered worldview. That's not my problem. I said what needed to be said, and I walked away with my head high. The truth is, I'm happier now than I was living in Jennifer's house during her cancer treatment. Back then, I was needed but not valued. I was useful but not appreciated. I was giving everything but receiving nothing. Now I have less money, less space, less family. But what I have is genuine. The people in my life choose to be there. They're not tolerating me or using me. They actually care about me. And that makes all the difference. I think about the Margaret who walked into Shady Pines 3 months ago, broken and defeated, believing she deserved to be discarded. I want to go back and tell her, "You're stronger than you know. You're worth more than you believe. And you're about to meet people who will show you what real love looks like." I want to tell her that the worst thing that ever happened to her will also be the thing that saves her life. Because that's what happened. Jennifer's betrayal destroyed me, but it also freed me. It freed me from the endless cycle of giving without receiving, of loving without being loved back, of sacrificing without recognition. It freed me to finally ask the question I should have asked years ago. What do I want? What do I need? What kind of life do I deserve? And the answer is, I deserve a life of dignity and respect. I deserve relationships that are reciprocal, not one-sided. I deserve to be valued for who I am, not what I can provide. I deserve peace and security and the company of people who genuinely care about my well-being. Everyone deserves that. Every elderly person who gets warehoused in a facility and forgotten deserves that. Every parent who sacrifices everything for their children deserves that. I still have moments of sadness. I see mothers and daughters shopping together, laughing together, and I feel a pang of grief for what I've lost. I wonder sometimes if Jennifer ever thinks about me, if she ever feels guilty, if she ever regrets what she did. But those moments pass more quickly now. The grief is softer. The anger is gone. What's left is acceptance, and surprisingly, gratitude. I'm grateful for Rosa, who risked her job to help a stranger. I'm grateful for Sarah Chen, who fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. I'm grateful for Emily, who chose truth over comfort and maintained our relationship despite her mother's disapproval. I'm grateful for my new friends at the apartment complex, for my old nursing colleagues who welcomed me back, for every person who showed me that I still mattered. And in a strange way, I'm even grateful for Jennifer. Not for what she did, but for what it taught me. It taught me that I'm stronger than I thought. It taught me that I can survive losing everything and still rebuild. It taught me that family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shows up when you need them. It taught me that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who teach us the most important lessons about ourselves. I don't know what the future holds. I'm 68 years old, and I have maybe 20 more years if I'm lucky, and my health holds. But those 20 years are going to be mine. I'm going to spend them doing things I enjoy with people I love in a home that's safe and comfortable. I'm going to volunteer and garden and read and laugh with Emily and share coffee with Rosa and live every single day with the dignity I fought so hard to reclaim. And if Jennifer ever comes back, if she ever has that awakening, that moment of realization where she understands what she destroyed, I don't know what I'll do. Part of me wants to believe I'd open my arms and welcome her back, because that's who I've always been. But I know now that forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were. It doesn't mean pretending the hurt didn't happen. If Jennifer came back, we'd have to build something new, something based on mutual respect instead of one-sided sacrifice, something where both people give and both people receive. I don't know if she's capable of that. I don't know if I'm capable of trusting her again. But I know I'm capable of living without her, and that's enough. There's a woman who moved into my apartment complex last month. Her name is Barbara, and she's 73. Her son placed her here after his wife decided there wasn't room for her in their house anymore. Barbara cries a lot. She talks about how much she did for her son, how she doesn't understand what happened, how she must have done something wrong. I hear my own story in hers, so I bring her tea. I sit with her, I share my story, and I tell her what I wish someone had told me sooner. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Some people just can't appreciate what they have until it's gone. But you're going to survive this. You're going to be okay. You're not alone. Maybe that's my purpose now. Maybe I went through all this so I could help other people going through the same thing. Maybe my pain has a purpose after all. That's what I told my hospice patients all those years. That suffering can have meaning if we let it teach us. If we let it connect us to others. If we let it make us more compassionate instead of more bitter. I choose compassion. I choose connection. I choose life. Not the life I planned, not the life I thought I'd have, but the life I actually have. And it turns out that life is pretty good. It's quiet and simple and filled with small joys. It's exactly what I need. So to anyone watching this who's going through something similar, to anyone who's been betrayed by family, abandoned by someone they loved, discarded like they don't matter, I want you to know, you do matter. You're worthy of love and respect. You deserve dignity. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission to stand up for yourself. Don't wait for an apology that might never come. Don't spend your precious remaining time trying to fix a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Instead, find your Rosa. Find your Sarah Chen. Find your Emily. Find the people who see your value and reflect it back to you. Build a new life based on who you are now, not who you used to be. And know that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to choose yourself. I'm 68 years old, and I'm starting over. And you know what? It's the best thing I've ever done. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own dignity? Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because staying was destroying you? I'd like to know I'm not alone in this. The stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional and created solely for entertainment purposes. We believe in honoring our elders and treating all family members with love and respect. These stories are meant to inspire reflection on family relationships and the importance of compassion. Any resemblance to real people, events, or families is purely coincidental and unintentional. These narratives carry no specific cultural, political, or religious implications.